Yay, we're live!
We are live. Hello, hello, hello. I am quite excited today because I have known Joanne for it seems like eons, ages
It
and ages.
seems like forever, but
But I'll
it's
tell you
not.
why. It's because it was I think right at the start of when I started my business. I mean, I started in
Yeah,
2010 and it was very
yeah,
close, maybe 2011.
yeah. It's definitely. I was going to say it's around a decade. So yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
So I feel
yeah.
like I've known you forever and
And it was
like
at a Cat Diva event.
yes, it was. And
At
Anne
Li-
Wilson.
and Anne Wilson, yeah, exactly, with a few of the old crowd,
Yeah.
and we were just like.
Nobody would be surprised at that. But I really wanted to introduce you to people that I know, and I know we know a lot of people in common anyway. I remember actually that very first meeting because you were talking about something, and I said, have you got an Australian twang to your accent? Everyone looked at me
Like,
as if to say, what? And then you
yes,
said,
for sure. Bloody oath, mate.
but I was right. You'd spent some time in Australia, and I somehow heard it. Anyway,
Yeah, Aussie girl at heart, always.
so we are streaming today in a lot of different places. I'm streaming on my YouTube channel, which is at Jenny Kovacs, and you can find me. Very lucky to get that URL. I'm also streaming to LinkedIn, and I'm also streaming to my Facebook page, the Queen of Being Seen page. And I know that this will be being streamed out on what your Facebook and YouTube
Yeah,
and places.
as many as I can stream it to.
But
Hello, everybody.
I wanted you to meet Joanne because she's just amazing. As she said, we always, from the moment we met, we always clicked. She does some amazing stuff in the world, and I really think you need to know about it and definitely need to hear about it. And also, she is one of the crew that we decided to do this 365 days, and we're all doing it in our different ways. We're either live streaming videos, some of us are doing it a couple of days a week, some every day of the week. And I think it's really good for you to hear how different people use it. But first off, I feel like this is the smallest question with the biggest answer. Do you want to tell people, kind of like in a nutshell, what you do and how you got into it, if that's even possible?
In a small nutshell, I work with women who I'm going to say are maybe witch adjacent. They're like,
Ooh.
they're a little bit witchy, but they're not fully in the witch maybe category. But they are full on believing in angels, love their cards, like doing a little bit of magic on the side. And I remember maybe about 10 years or so ago when I was doing more sort of therapy type work, going to networking groups, and I started saying, hi, I'm Joanne, I'm a psychodynamic therapist, and I believe in angels. And then I would go on to whatever I was saying. And then at the end, there would always be this little group of women who come like, I believe in angels too. Do you? So as time has gone on, I've just allowed myself to throw off the fears that we have around saying that actually we're really hippie, we're really spiritual, even if we're not in a religious context, that we're like, we believe in the universe, we believe in the power of manifestations. And now I'm using that much more in terms of creating transformations and for women growing their business and healing whatever horrible wounds we have to heal in order to go, yes, I'm awesome, I'm successful, let's do this. So
I love this. There's so that I have questions already that I think would be helpful for people listening as well. So the first thing is we had Susie on the week before last, and she was talking about in her work how she bumps up against the witch
the
wound.
witch
So
wound.
do you want to just talk about why what you're talking about is different?
It's very similar. And probably when I work on the witch wound, I'm working on a different level to Susie, but it's all part of throwing off the patriarchy and letting the matriarchy rise. But in terms of that, I don't mean male or female, because you could be working with the matriarchy energy in whatever gender you are. But I will be I will be doing more the hippie stuff. So I'll quite often do past life clearing. For example, there's often past life clearing that's needed around drowning, needed around healing yourself, about what I used to call, actually, there's a really old video on my YouTube channel. It's probably about 20 years old now, that I called the curse of the butterfly. And this is what Susie was talking about. It's the idea that you do all this work, you do all this training, you set up everything that you need, you go into this chrysalis and like completely rechange yourself. And then you come out as this beautiful butterfly. And then you're like, I don't want people to look at me. But that you're now beautiful and you've got the skills, you've got the training, you're like, well, I don't want people to look at me because it's too scary. And she was talking about also the sort of the tribal aspect. And again, yeah, I was like, yep, absolutely. Because eons ago, you had to stay in your tribe, because if you left the tribe, the wolves and the bears and the tigers are going to get you. And the wolves and bears and tigers are still out there. They're just in a different format to what they were before, but they're still going to get you. And I guess before I was much more on the, okay, let's deal with those fears and let's go into them and get rid of them. Whereas now I'm much more, let's do a spell. Let's do some candle magic. Let's call on ancient goddess energy. Let's call on Kali. Let's get this stuff shifting. And never mind why it happened. Let's go.
I love that. And it's interesting because the other thing that you were saying before, that I think people, I don't know, maybe they have some fear about it, or maybe they have some curiosity about it. So for many people that kind of either see me, get to know me, or get to know my work, and this includes in the corporate space, you might be thinking, witchy, well, this is a bit far out. But here's how this kind of came up for me, even before I started doing this in 2010. So I used to be an avid Glastonbury goer, Glastonbury festival goer. For years, I would go. And before it got really big, but people that went in the 80s think that it got really commercialized back then. One of the things I used to love, and you've got to remember the context of where I was then. I was working in financial services. I had a very senior role there.
Corporate lady.
Very corporate, pinstripe suits, everything else, board meetings, very sensible conversations, which I still have now. I feel like a chameleon. I can fit into spaces that people don't expect me to. And I would go to Glastonbury and I would have a look at the thing and map out who I wanted to see. But I always got to a point where I didn't want to be running from stage to stage to stage. And I discovered at Glastonbury the healing fields. And I was like, and I'll tell you how I discovered it, because I went there and the vibe, the energy just felt really chilled, non-frantic. And I was like, I like it. What's this? And as I started speaking to people, there were people that were offering Reiki, massages, making bread, in exchange just to chat to them, and, all sorts of different things. And I always used to kind of laugh. I used to go with my then ex-husband, and I said, it's so funny. I feel like I bring out my inner hippie here. I didn't use words for it, but I knew that it was a bit different. I didn't hide it from people. If they asked me, I would say, oh, I love going to the healing fields. I got a really nice massage, or I had Reiki. They'd say, what is Reiki? I'd say, I don't know, but it was just really relaxing, So sometimes I see that. And then there are other times that I do go into places. The Metropolitan Police was another one. And I'm giving this context because people will go, oh, no, that's not me. I'm not into all of that stuff. I was giving a talk at Scotland Yard, and I was talking about setting goals. And I said, there are a number of different ways you can do it. I'm not going to go through the SMART model. I'm going to talk about something else. So I was inviting people to imagine the thing that they wanted, blah, blah, blah. And one of them, this like really senior ranking officer, said, is this like the law of attraction? I love the law of attraction. I was like, oh my freaking gosh.
Love that.
We've infiltrated the world, So I do want people to, especially if you're not so familiar with this, but that because a lot of my corporate male execs, senior execs
Mm,
say, I'm doing this job, I earn a lot of money, I look after
mm,
my family, but there's got to be more to life than this.
mm.
I feel like I want to do something that serves the world as well.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, my wife or, my daughter does this thing and helps the planet. So I really want to invite anyone listening to listen with an open mind and honestly get in contact with Jo if you can, because she does such amazing things and she'll completely normalize whatever you are experiencing
Mm,
or thinking. Do you
yeah.
come across a few people that are in that
I
place?
think I think that's the thing, is that because I don't consider myself all that hippie or spiritual, but for somebody who's coming from corporate world, I'm very hippie or spiritual, but I know that in that world I'm like, so I'm very much kind of like a bridge, a more like comfortable way of experiencing it without
Mhm.
going full on, don't shave your armpits and wander around smudging every room every day.
Which is totally fine too if you do.
But I think you're right, because my husband is, he's 6'4", former sergeant in the RAF, now works as in colleges teaching students, and again, you have this impression, well, he must be, straight down the line, not going to open your mind. But he's like, oh, are we going to do a little spell? Are we gonna work with some angel cards? Like, I think it's people have always maybe had this interest, and it's getting more and more safer to go, actually, I'd like to learn more about that, please. That sounds
Mm,
fun, that sounds interesting. And
mm,
so much of it is about recognizing, and I say this all the time, it doesn't necessarily even have to be true. It doesn't have to be true that there's a great omnipotent being. What's happening is there's a change in your brain. When you're doing this, there's a change in your brain, there's a change in your chemistry, there's a change in your emotion. And if we're getting to that through using a metaphor of the goddess Fortuna, then let's just go with that and not care if she really exists. Let's just use the power.
exactly. And I think people are more open to it now. I say nowadays, like an old fossil, but I really do, just because the last 5 years alone have been so strange. Even the pre-pandemic time, there was this kind of shift of people wanting to kind of seek out more for themselves, for their lives, for their family. Then, of
Mm,
course, the pandemic and lockdown came with all sorts of things, from people having very heavy mental health challenges, like heavier
mm,
than before, the
mm.
recognition of that. Without me going into a rant or off piece, a lot of divisiveness that's going on the planet, where people are being divided by, anything that ends in an ism, basically. Otherwise,
Yes.
I will rant. But and people being challenged about gender and things like this. And I think that the topic that you are so great and so passionate about, it almost transcends all of those different things.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
how did you kind of get into all of this? Weird
well,
question.
well, Well, because I was doing psychology at university, and you know what it's like when you're at university, you get into all sorts of weird stuff and you stay up all night having deep and meaningful conversations. And that's when I got into using rune stones. So I sort of
Mm,
came through the oracle through the runes, so not through the tarot at all. So I sort of had that like original sort of psychic ability without knowing what it was very early. And then when I was working in market research in Australia, and my boss was saying to me, but how you're really scientific, how can you also be all this like believing in angel stuff? And I'm like, but they run in parallel. They
mm,
so all the time I've been working on therapy skills and business skills, I've also just been, oh, let's add candle magic, let's add crystals, so they've just come along in tandem. And sort of as you know, when you get to a point where your physical body is challenging you, which it was for me with endometriosis and with long COVID and all sorts of menopause, and I had to go okay, bring it right back down. What is the bit that I love the most? What's the bit that I enjoy doing the most? And it's like, well, it's the hippie stuff, Joanne. So just do the hippie stuff. So it's all on the hippie stuff. But I think because I've got that more down to earth side, it is a comfortable hippie stuff. It's like, let's go play
Yeah.
rather than, yeah.
Yeah, and I think people often think of this topic as something to be feared, but I do think it's because they don't know enough about it. And I think if you're curious enough, like playfully curious enough,
Yeah.
you'll find all
Yeah.
sorts of great stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and going back to that witch wound thing, it is fascinating when I look at, because I love history, and I was looking at, oh, have I still got you? Okay. I'm going to assume
I
you've
am,
still got
as
me.
you speak, I'm giving
Yeah.
you the floor and I'm in the background watching.
Ah, that's clever, isn't it?
Yeah, I should have told you about
So,
that before I did
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So I love the history stuff, and I was reading a piece of history one day about what a pastor had written in about the 16th century about what makes a woman a witch. And it was literally everything, everything. The healers, the cooks, absolutely everything could make a woman a witch. So therefore we know that the word witch is only an Anglo-Saxon word, which means it's only been around for 1,000 years, which means all of the previous practice around priestessing, enchantments, doing magic that has been around for probably 7,000 years before that was never witchcraft. It was just a way of connecting to the divine, connecting to infinite wisdom, of using your intuition. And it has nothing at all to do with what we consider witchcraft and that European witch hunt type thing. So when you start to separate out that fear of European witch hunts and go, actually, this is just a skill that people have been using for millennia, it's like, it's a whole different vibe. And I'm all about the vibe.
Yeah, as am I. I think it's so fascinating. And what I love about this as well, I know that you are working with business owners and using this in such a cool way, I think. And I'll let you explain it because I think I don't want to kind of butcher it. But one of the things that I love, I think people don't realize when you're a business owner and you're spinning lots of plates, you're launching a product or service, you're basically or essentially marketing yourself, selling your services, doing your account, streaming on video, you're spinning lots of different plates. And that, when I say it like that, it has the power to kind of almost take our energy. But in order to be able to keep doing those things, we need to be able to kind of to stay in a good groove. And I love what you're doing with people that are launching. Do you want to talk a bit about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so launches are brilliant. They're fantastic, and they're just such a fun way to grow your business. They're like, yes, I want more clients. Come on, I want more clients. But as we know, there's always that flip side of you're doing a launch and you're like, oh, but am I going to do videos? I hate videos. Or I've got to write emails, or I've got to get my sales page done. And as soon as we go into that, we lose our energy. And so my one-to-one work is about working out what goddess do we need, what magic do we need, what ritual do we need. So for example, there's a gorgeous binding rune that you can do. It's like 3 lines that is just going to anchor you to your feminine power. And it's a bit like, as you know, as you said to me the other day on one of the posts where I was like, well, you're feeling worried and you do your Wonder Woman stand. And you're like, okay, let's anchor in that feeling. It's the same with this rune. And so you could add that rune to your sales page, to your images. You can draw it on your hand before you start doing your video. It's a way of connecting to your power. And so it is, when you're creating your launch, if you've got loads of heavy energy that's bringing you down, you're not going to get the client attraction. As we know, law of attraction, it's the law of vibration underneath. And if you haven't got that vibe right, so I work on this law of vibration so that when you put your stuff out there, it's the law of attraction going on. And so I had this, so I've got this lovely, lovely one-to-one program ready. And then I was doing my own work. I was doing some candle magic. I was doing a full moon spell, which I do through my Facebook group, actually, if anybody's interested in that.
What's your Facebook group called?
Magic Up Your Business.
Okay. What I'll do after we've finished here, I'll make sure to put the link.
Make sure, yeah. In case I've remembered that wrong, because #dyslexic. Which is another example of things that can trip you up when you're trying to promote your business. And you can be like, oh, now what is my name? But now I don't worry about it. If I get it wrong, I'll just go in and correct it later. But I was doing one of these lunar magic spells. And I was like, right, I've got this lovely one-to-one. And then the intuitive message that I was getting was like, it's not the right time. It's too big for you to be offering this right now. You need to pause. So I was like, ow. Rubbish.
Disappointing, but actually very helpful, because it's not pushing water uphill, doesn't it?
Exactly. I was like, oh, okay. So after you go away and think about it for a little bit, and actually I was like, okay, I need to take my time with creating this group, this program, this one-to-one program. I need to take my time with creating the sales page, all the bits. That was actually like, take my time. And then I thought, well, you know what? There are probably some other women out there who need to take their time creating a launch. So why don't I do a little group program and we can all do it together? We can all do this. Okay, let's talk about our sales page. Let's talk about our marketing strategy. Let's do a spell. Let's do it hand in hand. And thus the mini sister mind was created for August.
Oh, like, nice.
Full transparency is because I didn't want to do it on my own. I thought I'd see who wants to join in with me.
But you know what? There is a nice synergy. I do like that whole group piece. I think, yeah, I know it sounds a bit trite. We're better together, but we really are.
Yeah.
So I've just found the link to your group. So
yay! It worked.
Joanne's group.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So the spell alongs, they're a freebie that I do live on the full moon and sometimes the new moon as well. And it is what I call a spell along. So I'll let you know what ingredients you need, and you follow along my spell as I do it. It's great fun, but I do it with a business intention. So I think the last one was about creating growth. So there'll always be a really specific focus for our subconscious mind to get to grips with like, what answers do we want for our business to move it to the next stage.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Oh, so, you know, there's so many things we could talk about on here, but I won't keep us going for hours and hours. Probably come back and do another thing.
We'll need food at some point.
Yes, we will need food. Well, I always say, when you do what you love, you can always do it without breathing, eating, or sleeping. So don't take that literally. Oh, I love that, and I love how you're helping people with that. And I love that. I love the group synergy as well. So we decided amongst a group of us that we were going to do 365 days of either lives or videos in whichever way felt good for us. And you were one of those people that I'm really glad you're along on the journey as well. So what was it that had you decide to do that in the first place? Because you could have said, you know what, I'll do it later, I'll do it now. What was it for you?
Well, I saw Julia do it and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I kind of like, must have been a week or two. And then I must have seen one of yours. And then I was just like, I've got to do that. It was 100% intuition. I had no idea what the rules were going to be, what I had to try and do. And you were like, yeah, I'll add you to our little group. It will be great fun. And what I found is quite often when you work with your intuition, you don't know why you're doing something. But what I found was it's helped with my consistency. And my consistency is rubbish, because with the chronic fatigue, it's like, it is rubbish consistency. And there's two things I noticed about this challenge is, one, it has beautiful flexibility where it's okay if I don't post for a day. And I think I didn't post for a whole week at one point because I got the flu, and you're just like, nah. And I had some videos that I could have posted. I was just like, no, I'm just going to hit pause and then I'm going to pick it up again. Which is so nice because there's none of that guilt of like, you failed the challenge. Like, no, I'm working with my flow for this challenge. And the other one that I shared in the group, and I know you really love, so I will mention it again now, was when there was one day I was like, oh, I don't have the oomph to do a video, but I had the topic, and so I did a post. And whereas before, I just wouldn't have done anything. I'd have just gone, I'm not feeling it today. But because it was kind of like part of the 365, I'm like, I'm going to do a post instead. And I was like, oh, guess what, Jenny? I did a post instead. It's really cool.
Oh, do you know what? What you've said is so huge. Honestly, it makes me want to cry because I think the topic of visibility, people get it so twisted. You know, the people think, oh, I only teach visibility, or I'm the queen of being seen because I'm the person that wants the visibility. And the truth of the matter is, I know how important it is, but I don't care about it for me. I care about it for like anybody that wants it, needs it, deeply desires it, fears it, or anything else, because it's so liberating. They don't realize how much they get to empower other people. So the other thing that I am not really keen on in the realms of visibility, and remember, like I started doing this in 2010. I was the UK's visibility specialist, and other people have now kind of like they've tacked it onto the things they do. But one of the things that doesn't sit well with me, I really don't like, because it doesn't sit well with me, is this notion that to be visible you have to be on 24/7, that consistency means that you have to force yourself to do something. So this is why this time around on the 365 days I did a little video and I said to people, look, have a think about how you want to do it. Do you want to do it every single day of the week? Do you want to do it over the 365-day period for 1 or 2 days? Do you want to just do weekends, only do weekdays? Do you want to go live? Do you want to do a video? Do you want to rehash stuff that you've done before? And I want people to know that they, like I always say, their voice matters, but I want them to know that they can do it in a way where they shouldn't be guilted. So to hear you say, you know, number one, I was ill, so I didn't do it for a bit, and be okay with that. And number two, you know, well, actually, I decided to write a post instead. That is consistency. And I feel like I want to redefine the word consistency for people. It matters. It's not about burnout, and it's not about stretching yourself thin, and it's not about here's me talking to you and now I'm on the screen and I need to speak like this and be like this and have, you know, whatever look people are expecting. I want people to be free to speak and be them, because actually that's the most magnetic thing that we all have. And when people start to experience that, it fills my heart with joy. The thing that I do the most behind closed doors is cry when people say, oh my gosh, I've just done my first video, or, you know, oh my gosh, someone's asked me to speak and I've said yes. And it just, it touches me really deeply. So I love that you've done that. And especially for the work that you do, different people get to access the work that you do, and just, yeah, keep on keeping on in whichever way you want to do it. Oh, so your group, I've put your group in the link. If people want to contact you as well about the energy stuff and the launching stuff and be part of that group, is it best for them to go in the group, or can they contact you any other way?
Yeah, probably Instagram is quite good because I'm on there as the Business Enchantress.
Okay.
I quite often check my messages on there.
Okay.
So you do Instagram or the Facebook group.
Okay, cool.
You'll definitely get me either of those ways.
Okay, and what I will do again is I'll make sure that the link goes underneath here, rather than me trying to find it and not look at you and listen to what you're saying. Is there anything else that you would like to leave anybody watching this with, whether it's a couple of tips or whether it's something about that?
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull a card.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
I'm going to pull a card and we'll see. So this is Spirit Animal.
Spirit Animal card. Okay.
Yeah. So let's do Jenny, you blow on the cards. Okay.
And also,
People.
if you can, just before you do that, do you want to explain to people why you would use those cards? Like, I use them for different things, but why would a person choose to use the cards to do something?
Oh, Jenny, that's like another great big topic.
I know it is. I know.
Let me see if I can do it succinctly in the way that I think of it.
Or maybe you can just
it gives you an opportunity to look at what you're experiencing from an outside point of view. As we always know, we've got our own blind spots. And even if it's something that we know, like we might know that we're really, really good at something, but we don't have the courage to do it. And then you get a card that tells you, you're doing awesome, you're doing brilliant. You're like, okay. And it comes down to the fact that our brains work in two ways. We either listen to an inner voice and that can power us up, or we need to listen to an external voice and that can power us up. And it doesn't matter how confident we are. So I'm a very confident person. I've done a lot of work on myself, but I will need my husband to say out loud, this is a really good idea. You should do that, because I need that outside voice. So cards give you both an outside voice and an inner voice, because you can read about them, which gives you your inner voice. And because you're looking at them, you're going to get an outer voice. You're going to get that this is coming from an outside spirit, outside wisdom, outside knowledge. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. And it's interesting because you're right, it is a big topic. Different people use it for different ways. And I think, again, people will think of going to a fairground, a lady with big hoop earrings and a scarf and, doing something. And that's one way. It's interesting. Somebody who has to remain anonymous did some work in Downing Street, probably going back 15 years ago. And my business brain was kicking to answer my question. And I said, most people, like whether they're sales execs or something, sometimes they'll carry a lucky penny in their pocket or wear their special tie that closes the deals. I said, before you go into these situations, especially if they're contentious, what's the thing that you do to know that you're kind of on the right track or to get guidance from you or your team? This guy with his suited and booted, talking about all the things he was doing, said, oh yeah, we pull an angel card. I was like, what the what? So it just goes to show people will do it for validation, vindication. They will do it for a good purpose. Many of the people Joe and I know, they do it with good intention.
Exactly.
They're not kind of sitting there doling out cards and hexing people. But all to say, people are using these tools and techniques because they are tools in lots of ways that you might not have imagined. And then some of you will be watching this going, oh, Jenny, yeah, been doing this for years. Honestly, get into Joe's group, get into and look at the stuff that she shares, because she does it from a really grounded and wise place as well. That comes through for me.
You do. I am grounded and I'm wise. Yes, I have wisdom, which is really funny you should say that, because this card that we just pulled.
Okay, go for it.
Wolf spirit.
Oh, yeah.
Turn knowledge into wisdom.
See, there you go.
And if you think, lots of people who work with you, they've got knowledge. And when you start putting yourself out there as an expert in whatever form, you have to go, what I'm delivering is wisdom. And it's got nothing to do with ego. It's about allowing other people to learn, experience, play with your knowledge. For them, it's wisdom. For me, it's knowledge. It's stuff that I know. For you, it's wisdom. So when you're being visible, tap into your wolf spirit.
See, we have demonstrated live on air the power of the cards. Honestly, you can't make this stuff up.
You can't make this up. You can't make this up.
So thank you for demonstrating that so beautifully.
You are very welcome.
And
Seems
I
like a good way
really,
to end.
it is. I really look forward to people connecting more with you. If at any point you're looking at this going, oh, I can't find Joanne, then please, please, please just get in contact with me and I'll connect you in whichever way we can.
Yeah,
Thank you
fabulous.
so much. Thank
Thanks,
you for being
Jenny.
here.
That was so much fun. I loved it.
And I will see you in the
Yeah,
ethers.
I'll see you in the group.
Yes.
I'll see you in our video group. All right.
See
Lots
you,
of love.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Does it switch off by